Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised, a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slater Jackson, and for you freaky motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Adams. On today's episode, we're peeling back those layers, y'all. We're talking about mental health, and we're also talking about relationships. And I am blessed to have the sex therapist herself, Sharita. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty great. You know, we love you here on the Soliloquy podcast. If we didn't, you would not be having all these damn episodes. Look, it's going to be the year of Sharita. If you're not finding you a mental therapist, if you're not finding you a sex therapist, you're not finding anybody to help you do anything to improve your life, you're lacking. We got Sharita here, y'all. This is a blessing. Okay? Do better. Let's do great for ourselves. It's the year of Sharita, y'all. So here we are getting ready to dive deep into this. The first thing that I wanted to bring up is just the need for a therapist, like how we all need them. A therapist needs a therapist, a doctor needs a therapist, a physician needs a therapist. We all need therapists. So, what is your sentiment behind just that phrase itself, or your belief when it comes to the need for therapists, how to find a therapist, all of that goodness?
Yeah. So I definitely agree with that sentiment, like 100%. And because of just the stigma of mental health, it's always been seen as like, I only need a therapist if I'm like quote unquote crazy, or if I'm like super depressed, or I can't function like every day. And yes, of course, if you are having those issues, you do need a therapist, but also people who are able to function every day and just dealing with like just the everyday stressors, right? Especially as African Americans. Being an African American living in the United States is stressful, right?
Hell.
Racism.
Everything.
So being able to just have someone objectively to talk to about your issues, to work through processing those things. A lot of the times we don't know how to process our emotions. And so being able to have someone who's clinical to kind of help you with that and navigating that. I think everyone needs it. Therapists, we're the number ones that need it the most, and the ones that also struggle with getting it. Because it's like, well, I know this information, but yes, you may know that information and still you're dealing with everyone else's issues. You're dealing with stress of your own. So of course you also need a therapist. Of course it's beneficial for you. So
Yeah, and I would say it's really hard not to not to allow other people's situations to impact you. Like you can go into situations and be objective, listen to them, hear them out, give advice or whatever the case is, but you still walk away with that. Like it's like whenever you have conversations with your friends and you tell them everything that's going on, be it some relationship issues, whatever the case is, that friend is going to walk away with what you told them. And that's either going to be something that sits with them for a couple days, or it's going to be something that sits with them for months. Like I would prefer if it's something that only sits with me for an hour, that way I can easily get over it, but you never know. Like you have to bring yourself to a space to be like, okay, it's fine to talk to somebody about these things. And it's not to say that, you shouldn't be talking to your friends and stuff like that, but you also have to recognize your friends are not your therapists. Your friends cannot carry all of that weight for you. It's easier to have somebody who has that experience who can carry that, but they're, again, therapists need therapists. So as long as they're doing their part too, that's fine. But having someone who specializes in this, who can help you maneuver through this, it's always a good thing. Like sometimes people give you advice through their own hurt, and you don't need that. Just because they had something that negatively impacted them when they were in a similar situation, that doesn't mean it's going to do that for you. So it's like, yeah, you need unbiased people to communicate with. And of course, for those who are who just don't believe in therapy, find somebody who can help you, like a spiritual guide, pastor, priest, whatever the case is, if they do their job right, honestly, because there's some who will shame you. So make sure you have somebody who can feed your soul and not drain your soul. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think also when it comes to just people assume that therapy is, oh, you're just someone that I'm going to tell my problems to and I'm going to walk away. And
Mm,
there's so much more to therapy than that. I didn't go to school for 6 years to get my bachelor's and then my master's if it was just about talking to someone,
mm,
right? And so, yes, your friends are great. And also remember that your friends are connected to you, right? So if you were talking about your friend's ex-boyfriend and how he's trying to date you and stuff like that, you may not be able to talk to them about those things because they're connected to you. They know the person you're talking about. And they may not know how to actually process it, right? They could be there and listen to you, but they may not be able to give you tips and tricks on how to how do you process that feeling and those emotions that come with it.
mm. Now you have me thinking about how would that session go if someone were to come to you about, oh yeah, my best friend's spouse was hitting on me, and I just don't know how to process that, and I don't know how to communicate that with my best friend without them being upset and ruining our relationship. If someone were to walk up to you with something of that nature or in the session, is there anything that you would tell them, or would you require a lot more information surrounding that?
Yeah, I would need more information about the relationship she has with her best friend. There's some people who say they meet someone in 2 days and say that's my best friend, right? And then there's people that's been my best friend for 13 years. It may be a different dynamic and different advice I would give based off of that. I would explore the relationship she has with the ex-boyfriend. Like, what is it that made him comfortable enough to feel like he could flirt with you, right? So there may have been some moments where boundaries were not set correctly with this ex-boyfriend for him to feel comfortable saying those things to you, right? And then if it really was a situation where just that off-handed thing, but she did want to really tell her friend about what happened, I would advise them to have like a session with the friend in or the ex-boyfriend together, and they can have that conversation in like a safe space if there was that fear. So
I get that. I love that. You see, look, this is why she gets paid the money to do what she does. This is what you call expertise. It's not something that easily comes to people. You really do have to experience this firsthand, seeing people, removing yourself out of the situations, looking at things objectively, find all the information that you can to make sure that you're giving them adequate, advice on things, and even taking in, okay, so what is this person's mental state in terms of like whenever they do get bad news? Like, there's a lot of things you have to like consider. Oh God, I'm just thinking about just crucial conversations with people. Like, oh, how do I say this? How do I tell my partner that I want you to choke me sometimes? And I want you to also spit in my mouth while doing it. Like, how do you have these kind of conversations?
Right.
Like, it
And
is
it's
not.
gonna be it's different per person because you
Mhm.
can have those conversations with someone who's like a part of the kink community and they're like, okay, I'm down, yeah, just say a word. And then there's other people who, may have been raised a little bit more heavily Christian and have very like vanilla views, whatever vanilla means to them, views about sex, and that would be a whole different conversation, right? So
See, this like again another reason why you need to get you a therapist so you can get these tools. Get the tools that you need. Communication is amazing. Like we have that phrase communication is key, but we don't learn how to communicate with each other. Like it's not enough just to keep repeating that over and over and over and over and think things are going to change. It's not. It's not. You can say, oh, I need a partner that could communicate. Okay, great. Can you communicate yourself? Like, even though you think you can, do you have the ability to shift your communication style to match the person that you're communicating with? And are they able to do the same thing for you? Communication is a reciprocal thing. So,
do you know your communication style? A lot of people don't even know their communication style.
that's a point. That's a point. So, just something to think about. um, Another thing I did want to address is the essentially codependency. We've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think it's always important to bring that conversation back up. Like I've heard how, codependency can be healthy in terms of like, let's say if you have someone who may be disabled and they have a partner who's able to take care of them, that's a form of codependency. But I also think that there's like that framing takes away the independence of each individual because that may be codependent in action, but not codependent in emotional attachment. And I think those are two completely different things. And in most aspects, when well, most definitely myself, when I talk about codependency, is more of the emotional attachment, the way that you need a certain person to fulfill your emotional needs, that they become the center of your reality, and things like that. What are your views of codependency?
Yeah, so I mean, I get understand both sides. So I feel like in a relationship, there are going to be instances of codependency. That's a part of being in that relationship and maintaining it. The issue is, as you've mentioned, is kind of that emotional codependency of like, I can't live without this person,
Mhm.
right? And even with the example you gave, yeah, there is some codependency in physical, where like I'm helping my person who, let's say they are paraplegic or whatever, and I'm helping them with all these things. But you still have to be mindful of that. You still have to be mindful of the power dynamic that comes with that. You have to be mindful of the boundaries that come with that, because they may like you may be using up all of yourself to take care of this person who's taking care of you, which can cause resentment in that relationship.
The Soliloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Soliloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Soliloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation.
You may be using up all of yourself to take care of this person who's taking care of you, which can cause resentment in that relationship, right? So you have to be really mindful of yourself and be mindful of like how much you're giving into the relationship and how much you're receiving in that relationship as well.
That makes sense. So boundaries, because you mentioned it before, and I do want to come back to that. What are I know like boundaries vary person to person. For yourself, what are some of the boundaries that you like to have set when it comes to like the early stages in your relationship? And do you see yourself removing some of those boundaries as things go along, or do you just redefine your boundaries like every now and again, just like with your partner to say, okay, this is where I'm at, like a check-in within your relationship?
Yeah. So I would be honest with you, and then we've talked about this. I'm pretty transparent about it. When we talked about it before, I've struggled with codependency. So like those boundaries in previous relationships were always very loose. But being more aware, doing the self work, and envisioning when I have a future relationship, for me, after being in these situations where I've been very codependent and I've been in relationships like that, a boundary of mine is like not hanging out every single day, right? It's really hard in the beginning to not want to see this person every single day because it's a new thing. But I realized that in doing that, that kind of feeds into that codependency, right? I have to, becomes like a drug to an extent.
Mm,
Like you get that endorphin high every time you see this person. So you want to see them every single day. And then it's really hard then when y'all start to like separate for whatever reason. Um, my own boundary, not moving in with each other. This is just for me personally. Some people do it within 6 months, whatever works for them. I like having my own space. So I like if someone comes to my space or I could come to their space, but I do not want to move in until like at least 2 years or a year to 2 years, me personally. Also, you don't fully know someone until 2 years into the relationship, and you may not still fully know them then, right? But their representative is not going to be showing as much in that 2 years. So I wouldn't want to live with someone and I don't really fully know them.
I understand that.
Um, so those are kind of my boundaries. Also, just being like, I guess it's subjective to the person I'm with, but just really being, when it comes to boundaries, being really aware of like if they're doing something that really bothers me, speaking up for it, making sure that when I speak up for it and it happens again, I set some sort of boundary of like, okay, well, now we can't hang out as much, or this is not working for me, whatever that looks like. Yeah.
I get that. Like, I not I'm thinking about not necessarily like previous relationships, but what like I want in terms of like getting to know somebody, like
Mm.
that move-in conversation. And because I, similar to you, I love my personal space, and sometimes I envision what my life would be like if I did have somebody that was living with me. Um, I definitely know that I need multiple rooms because, like, there's going to be days where I don't want to be hugged up under, like, with my partner, and I just want to be in a room by myself. Not because I've spent a lot of my life, well, it might be because I've spent a lot of my life, like, just being alone, but it's mostly just because I appreciate my alone time a lot. Like, I don't mind being with somebody, being in the same living space with them for like a month or so, but I'm probably going to want a week away just so I can be with myself, be centered in aloneness, and feel happy that way. And then on top of that, when it comes to moving in, I'm kind of with you on the give it a year, 2 years, just so that you can get to know each other. And I also see myself having a process of, okay, let's start to gradually shift this.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, where for yourself, do you think you want to move in with me? Do you want me to move in with you? How's this going to look in terms of this relationship? All right, well, let's give each other like a full year, 6 months to make this process a lot easier. I'll stay here a week, you stay with me a week, and then we, go our separate ways for the rest of the month or whatever the case is, and just gradually move the stuff over, um, find my own space within their space, or them, the other way around, and build that new foundation that way, because I know I cannot handle like an instant, oh, it's time to move in. Ooh, there's an adjustment period.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I still would need a place to stay on my own. Like I have to have that alone time. Like I have to.
So, how many rooms in your future house, your final home, do you feel as though you would like to have?
Just all together. If I had a partner,
Yeah.
I would. So if I had a partner, I would want to have at least like 6 rooms all together in the
Ooh.
house. That way he can have, or he, she, they can have some rooms to themselves in like their own little. I want to have like a little basement area just for me, and they have their own little basement area for them. Um, and then we can have our bed that we share in separate rooms for beds, just in case, sometimes people get into arguments or they don't want to sleep together. I transparent, I snore. So someone, I can imagine someone not wanting to like actually sleep and deal with me snoring, or like some people like to sleep with the light and TV on, and I have to sleep in complete darkness. So we can have a room that we just are intimate in a room where they can sleep separate. We can sleep separately, and then have our own kind of just like separate departments in the house. That would be beneficial. So in those moments when you're having those arguments and you need that alone time, and it could be set up. I haven't really thought about it until now, so I'm sorry if I'm rambling. It could be set up where it's like this is set up like it's all set up downstairs. That like I have the whole downstairs for myself if I want, and then they can have like the middle level just for themselves if they want. And then we can like share. We could come down to each other's spaces. That sounds cool.
I like that. I like that. I've been thinking about it in stages. Like the early moments of our relationship, getting to know each other, probably newlywed, or what if I actually feel like marriage at this point in my life. Look, it goes in and out, people. I have to be real. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't fuck with marriage. And then I'm like, yeah, I can see the financial benefits of doing it. So it's like,
Right.
but if that early phase, I'm like, okay, I'm cool with like a 3 bedroom house. That way they have their space, I have my space, and then we can have like a mutual office space that we share together. Or, sometimes I can go into their room, or they can come to my room, whatever the case is, or however we want to spend that time. And then, because I'm open to children. I think that I would love to have like probably 5, 6 bedroom home. And I don't count the basement as a bedroom, but I am going to build bedroom space down there, because I just want my basement just to be like a chill spot with a shower down there, a nice little bedding area, and also that's going to be like the play dungeon. Like, if I do have children, they're not even going to know there's a basement in the house, that kind of thing. So that will just be for me and my partner to just enjoy ourselves and just have that sexy time to ourselves, and don't have to worry about whatever the fuck is going on outside. And then of course with the bedroom spaces, because I like to have guests over, guest room, their bedroom, my bedroom, an office, and then additional room or 2 additional rooms just for whatever. But yeah, that's the house that I envision for myself and a future partner. So
Yeah, that sounds great. And it makes me really think like I'm blessed enough to have been like raised in a house that had like 3 different levels and like so much space and rooms. And like when I think about it, I'd want something very similar. Like I had my own we had a playroom when I was younger. So we had a huge room with like the children's playhouse, and like me and my brother could like and my cousins come down and we would just stay in that room. And then like it was connected to a bedroom so we could like sleep down there, and like the kids had the whole room area to themselves. And I would really like to have something like that if I did have kids, or even just for my nieces and nephews.
Ooh, yeah, I be forgetting that I do have those. Yeah, don't think I'm a horrible uncle. I love my nieces and nephews. I just, I be slacking, okay? Let me be great, okay, people? Judge me tomorrow, not today, Lord. So, ooh, all right. So, just to go on to a little bit something related to the episode, one of the things we did talk about as it relates to your, mental health as well as, building relationships, is having couples counseling prior to getting married, which I'm 100% for. Like, please do that. What are your stances?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. It kind of goes back to that conversation where we had in couples counseling with a real licensed therapist, nothing against pastors or nothing against the Christian or clergy, whatever. But a licensed professional counselor is going to give you more insight into your like communication styles. It's going to give you more insight into like processing your like your past trauma. Like it's going to be more, I wouldn't say it would be more beneficial, but it'll be really beneficial in giving you insight into why you are the way you are. I don't really necessarily see like Christian, not Christians, but just like a pastor who doesn't have that clinical background diving deep into your attachment styles, right? They're not going to even think about that kind of stuff.
I agree. Like I'm glad that you did separate those two because you do have the option to go to your faith provider. I'm trying to because I don't want to just say pastor because anybody with the actual credentials within like the religious circles can provide this service to their practitioners, but like that is a legitimate route for people to go through, but they have to remember this person is looking at things within the religious aspect of your relationships, your spiritual connection with God and whatnot and each other, but they're not really looking into the mental health side of things. And that's why I agree. Definitely, like you can continue to do that, have your meetings with your pastor and what have you, but having a professional that you all can like meet with to tackle these things is even more beneficial because when you become married, that's a completely new family dynamic in itself. Like you think, oh yeah, we've been couples for all this time. Okay, that's great. This marriage is a legally binding thing.
Mm-hmm.
Couples can easily break up. Married people cannot. And it's better to understand each other's mental health as well as each other's triggers, like how you've been triggering your partner or how your partner has been triggering you, and see how you all can better that. That's something only a licensed professional can provide. Not saying that a pastor cannot be a licensed professional because there's some out here, but not too many. So you just have to know exactly who you're going to and who can really benefit your marriage long term rather than just on the spiritual side of things. So things to think about.
Yeah, and I agree. Like there are some faith-led Christians. I actually know some, not faith-led Christians, faith-led licensed therapists, and I actually know some. So if people need some, I can send that referral. But if you're going to go that route, that you really do want someone who's faith-led, you can find someone who's faith-led and has the clinical background as well.
Yes, yes, get these couples right because I'm tired of the drama. The drama is great to look at, it's great to watch, but I'm tired of it. I really do want to see a lot more happier and loving relationships out here because it gets very I don't know the word. I can't find the word. It's not, I don't want to say depressing. I don't want to say sad, but it gets something. And I hate it. I hate seeing it because I'm just like, the way that these individuals do not love each other makes relationships not worth going into. And I know relationships can be a very beautiful thing. But it's so many people who choose not to tackle their insecurities, heal from those, and find new ways to love each other outside of all the hate that people shared about them, or all the misinformation that comes up in their relationship, or all the past hurt that they've dealt with this person. Not to say you have to constantly deal with the hurt, but if this is a person that you're willing to grow with, I'm just tired of seeing the people not willing to truly forgive their partner and move forward as a couple.
Yeah, it's very disheartening. I will say I don't think people know how to forgive.
Mm.
And I've had like clients that, I have a client who was recently cheated on, and she's like, oh, I'm fine, we're gonna be back together and this, that, and the third, which is great. But then he'll say certain things and he'll just bring back everything all over again, and she wants his location and like all these different things. And so I asked her, I was like, well, did you forgive him? And she's like, yeah. But as we talked more and more about, I don't think she knew how.
Mm.
Right? I don't think she knew what that meant. Right? Now we understand, like, you're not going to forget that this person cheated on you. You're going to be mindful. You're going to have, whatever boundaries that is set up for that. So if he does it again, leave him or whatever that is for you. But we do have to work on like forgiving that pain, because it sounds like you're holding in that pain consistently. Every day you're thinking about this. You haven't forgotten. You haven't forgiven him.
So what do you have any light tips as it relates to forgiveness, or how to um, bring forgiveness to the forefront for anybody who needs that kind of healing?
That one's a hard one. I think it takes a lot of really processing, and I think it's subjective to the event that happens, right? But it's a lot of processing that event for yourself. It's a lot of figuring out whether or not you even want this person in your life, right? There's people who have been hurt by their parents consistently, and as adults, you don't have to keep them in your life.
Mm.
And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, is letting go of people. But you don't have to keep someone who's continuously hurting you and not doing the work that, unless you're, now if you're dependent on them financially, figure out what works, right? Like, so you have to do what works best for you in the moment. But if they're not benefiting you financially, they're not benefiting you in any other way, you do not need them in your life. And you need to learn. I think part of it is just learning to love yourself and to realize that you are worthy of having people in your life that bring joy. You are worthy to having people in your life that don't make you guess and wonder whether or not they're going to cheat on you. You're worthy enough to have people in your life that are actually here to empower you and uplift you. And if you feel like this person is not doing that for you anymore, or you feel like every day you're wondering whether or not, then you don't need this person.
Mm. Ooh, child, not a word today, y'all. I would love to just be like, that's the end of this damn episode. Like, it's not, though, it's not. But
then for forgiveness, I think everyone has their own way of doing it. I think for some people, they need something tangible. So there's something that's really cool that I had spoke with one of my clients to do. What we call it in therapy is like the open chair technique. And it's like there's a chair and you're just talking, you're pretending like you're talking to that person. Everything you felt, everything they did, you're doing that to that person. You don't have to do that. That may feel a little weird and awkward for you. So there's always the writing a letter. I could write a letter to this person. I don't have to send it. I can send it if I want to. I can burn it, right? Having something physical for a lot of people is great, because it's like I'm physically seeing myself letting go of this situation and not worrying about it. Does that mean that situation is not going to come back up? No. There might be times later on in your life where it can. Forgiveness is one of those things that you're regularly working on, right? You're regularly processing, just like trauma.
Oh, girl, not the trauma. Oh, child trauma. That you trauma is embedded in you in so many different ways. Oh my Lord, mentally, physically. just, oh God, trauma just be there.
My
Uh,
back is hurting just thinking about it.
right. Oh my God. Um, I'm still stuck on just knowing your worth. And like, I think a lot of people really do need to hone into that message because you do have the ability to allow whoever you want in your life. You don't have to accept people bullying you, disrespecting you, making you feel less than, all of that. You don't have to allow these people to remain in your life if you don't want them there. And like you said, if there's some financial things going on, or if you're dependent on this person for some reason, I get it. Figure some things out. Figure out a way that you can, ease your way into a different, state of being where you don't have to deal with that. Meaning, if that means finding a new apartment, finding a better job, finding something that will have you a lot more financially secure, do what you need to do. But your peace is all, just find peace and find happiness and find enjoyment in this life that does not have to be with, uh, you don't have to be subjected to ridicule on a regular basis, abuse, and all that other stuff. Like, just find something that makes you feel great and just keep moving in that direction, and not drugs or alcohol. One
Yes,
of those.
exactly.
That's substances. That's a false sense of happiness. That's all I'm going to say on that part. Um, the last thing I do want to talk about before we get into the sets questions is, uh, it's so far off, um, because I think I don't know if last season was the last season or what, but we did have a brief conversation about Love is Blind,
Mm.
and just the concept of how that show is in terms of like, um, these people don't know each other and they're in a very high speed process to getting married and whatnot. And one of the things that we were talking about as it relates to that show is like how each of those couples can really benefit from having a professional with them as they go through this process. So, what is your sentiment on that?
Yeah, so well, I feel like Love is Blind for the most part is just, I mean, I mean it's not real love, right? It's like it's lust, it's kind of just like, oh, this person seems like a great person on paper kind of thing. And then like, oh, I guess I'll try it out. That's why none of the relationships last. It's really superficial. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure they talk about deeper questions to an extent. And I think there's only one couple out of the 2 seasons that's actually still married.
I believe so, yeah.
Lauren and the other guy. I didn't see season 2. I heard season 2 was fat phobic, but
There was only one big chick in there. She was gorgeous too, and yeah, old dude was hella fat phobic. Like that, he was a He's a narcissist too, but that's a different thing.
so, but or Married at First Sight, right? They're all kind of this similar idea, right? It's really great to look at, but it's really superficial.
Mhm.
And yeah, if you're going to go that route and that's really what you want to do and you're actually trying to find love, you're definitely going to need a therapist walking you through that. You're definitely, because I'm sure you're not asking the questions. And people, even when they're dating, don't ask these questions of like, so how was your childhood? Like, tell me about the last time, any type of trauma you've had. What is your relationship with your parents? Like, you may not be asking those questions because you're really just trying to get to know someone on a really superficial level.
Mm.
And so, of course, having a therapist to kind of process that, and even just being married, like kind of off of what we just mentioned, right? When you're the first time you're getting married, there's a lot of pressure. The dynamic that you have with your friends change. The dynamic you have with yourself changes. And so navigating those, that's a big stressor.
Mhm.
Navigating that stressor, navigating if you want to potentially have kids. You may not know you may think, you go into it thinking you want kids, and then you are with him and you're married and you're like, actually, I don't want this, right? How do I navigate that?
Mhm. I love that you mentioned that both of those shows, actually a lot of these shows, are very superficial because like, yeah, they do have a deep connection with these people. But that's a false connection, because they are, I feel like it's, in a sense, like every time I watch the show, I'm like, are these people going through some shit? Like, I feel like they are waterboarding these people off camera, because I'm like, this is giving trauma bond. Is really giving trauma bond, because I'm like, even when they talk about it and they're just like, yeah, well, we've been in this experiment. I know they're not physically being harmed in any way, but it's just like the way that they talk about the experience with doing everything, it just sounds like you all went through some kind of trauma in such a way that you cannot really articulate everything that you've gone through, which to me seems like an issue. Like, even when it comes to connecting with people, even people I've met through like online spaces, I could communicate a lot better in our experiences together through an app than a lot of these couples on the show. And I'm just like, what's going on with y'all? And on top of that, like, I do like the concept that you can fall for somebody without seeing them, but they don't build on it. They just think that, okay, you guys see each other, you propose, you like the visual with the personality that you got to know beyond the wall, and let's go with that and see how you all, mesh. But they don't have anything that helps them with building blocks. It's just, oh, we're just going to go to this stage, that stage, and then we're done. There's no outside third party that comes in. Okay, hey, look, we're going to be moving you into a home together so that you all can see how you two mesh. What is your living styles like, and what kind of things, like, do you prefer to do dishes? Do you prefer to wash clothes? Like, how do you like your living spaces? Is there a certain scents that you don't like? Is there certain fabric softwares that you don't like? Like, having these real ass conversations with people before they even push them into that. But it's just like all of this is so forced on these people that, yeah, it's just giving trauma bond.
Well, yeah, and it may not be physically harming, but definitely emotionally harming, right? You put anybody in a vacuum, basically, where they can't do anything but talk on the phone, talk, I guess, and maybe not on the phone, whatever it is, to people, and then just they're stuck in a room after that. Like, of course, they're going to be these like emotional bonding and trauma bonding with this person. Because I got nothing else to do. I can't compare you to anyone else besides the other person I talked on the phone with, whose voice I didn't like as much, right? Like, it's not giving real authentic connection, because a part of the dating process, and when it comes to like even the online platform, right, you're comparing that person that you're talking to on the online platform with another person you swiped right on. And you're able to go out into the real world and do things for yourself and go hiking or go do the hobbies that you like while still maintaining yourself and connecting with this person and seeing if this person is worth, you being around or all of that. But when you're stuck in a vacuum where you're not doing anything but basically drinking,
A lot of that.
drinking, talking to random people on the phone every single day, and then going back to your space with a group of other men or a group of other women talking about who you talk to on the phone, right? Like, it's just surrounding that, and it's not really giving a connection, a true, genuine connection where I have choice in the matter. And I think we talked a little bit about this before. Let's not even act like these are real, like, thought-provoking ideas of doing like Love is Blind and things of that nature. None of those girls are ugly, right? Everyone looks good. Everyone, quote unquote, looks good, whatever your preference is, right? But everyone has like a nice body. Everyone has like a flatter stomach, athletic-ish, taller, boobs, but they're traditionally attractive. Right. And so is it really that I have this connection with this person because I like them and I want to marry them because whatever, or I know this person's probably going to be attractive. Like, you've seen season 1,
Exactly.
like no one's gonna be hideous. And even the fat phobic one, I guess, but from my understanding, I think I saw the girl, she wasn't even that big. She was just a little chubby. So, but for the most part, they're all attractive in nature. So you're going into it like that. And I mean, you kind of have to think about like what type of person is going to be attracted to being on a show like this, right? It might be a certain type of people that's going to be on this type of show in the first place.
Yeah, now I would say from the selection that they had for season 1 and season 2, I think they really do hone in on those people who feel like it's their time to really be married, that they're running out of time or something of that nature, that I need this as a stepping stone to my next state of success. So let me find this resource that will make sure that make sure that I can align with or connect with somebody that can be that spouse of mine, so I can move to the next level where I see my life, meaning possibly having kids, give them the motivation that they finally needed to go after that promotion, because now they want to build a family rather than I probably should go ahead and go for this promotion that I feel qualified for. Probably not. I don't have a wife to build any. No, go get your promotion, bitch. Like get your promotion, get your money. Okay. But I think that's the pull that they typically capture with the show. And for some weird reason, on both seasons, they had people who were like really, really adamant that it is my time. My clock is running out. I need to go ahead and secure my husband. One of them, she grew from it. The other one, I'm sorry, sis. I hope she's doing better these days. But that reunion, she was not done with it. That was season 1. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it all plays a part in that, right? If I'm gonna try to look for a connection, and force a connection in my head, because this person seems like it's like a little bit of settling, right? This person seems like okay, I like talking on the phone with them. I guess it'll work. But you think about a relationship and you think about intimacy, a part of intimacy is doing shared activity together, right? You don't get that. You don't get to see how this person acts in traffic when it's like when they're yelling and they have road rage. You don't get to see, and then that's a part of knowing someone for years too, right? But you don't get to see how they react when a family member passes away, or when they are really stressed out and they overworked or whatever, and they stop talking to you for a couple of days. You don't get to see that aspect of that because you all are living in a vacuum and you're not dealing with any stressors to that extent. It's taking away all of the factors and actually really getting to have a genuine connection with someone.
You're right. And that's like, even I think about season 2, the social engagements or even little bachelor parties. Like it's the reality TV effect. You're not going to be in a restaurant by yourself. You're not going to be in these public spaces alone and no other people around. So you have to know who these people are. Like you really do have to look at people in different settings, like you said, in the car. If they have road rage, how they treat somebody who's like waiting staff or what have you when you go to a restaurant. These things are important. This allows you to see who's the person that you are planning on marrying or have already married. Like I get some situations don't pop up because you're not going to be in every single situation in life, but the ones that you do get, the ones that are most common are the ones that are most needed, essentially.
Right. Plus, people know that they're being recorded, right? So it's like, of course you're gonna get nothing but the good side of me because I don't want America to hate me. Like, what are we talking about?
Exactly.
And then that one guy, I think that's what I said. I heard about Love is Blind. I guess that guy who was fat phobic, he was a jerk, but I think that was the role he was playing. Like, if you really sit back and look at it, you're being recorded. You know that people are going to perceive you a certain way in how you're acting, right? Like, that is the role you play. When you think about the Real Housewives, people hate Kenya but she brings a lot of people to the show because that is the role she plays.
That's true, and I agree. I think that with him, his name is Shake. With Shake, he came onto the show in order not necessarily make himself a little bit more popular, but to play a role, and he ended up actually falling for somebody, and that scared him. And because of course this is me projecting, but because he lost out on something that he could have had, that just made him double down on it even more, because he didn't want to have that realization that I could have had a beautiful thing and I fucked that up. And this person doesn't like me. And now I have to sit in that space of I may actually be a bad guy. I may be a jerk and I may have mistreated this person this entire time. And I don't know how to handle that. So I'm going to make a joke out of it. I'm going to act like I'm not hurt, because even at the, like, I remember seeing that episode for the first time when Deep D was just like, yeah, I don't want this, and walked away and left him at the altar. The pain on his face, you could see it. Like, that's the crazy thing. You can see that he was legitimately hurt by her leaving him. And he just did his best to try to bury that feeling and not express it. And I was like, And then looking at the reunion of it, and I'm like, okay. He's just going to play that character as though he's not hurt, when deep down you could tell this man was definitely hurt. But yeah. On that note, you ready for some sex questions?
Yeah.
All righty. So here's the first one. What playful prop that isn't an actual sex toy have you used to heighten your pleasure, and how have you used it?
Isn't a sex toy?
Right. Now, that's going to make me think too. Oh my God.
I guess we could, like, silk ribbon. I mean, are we considering that a sex toy?
I don't know. I would say no, because you don't go to, like, you don't see that in a toy shop.
You can find rope in a toy shop though.
But can you find silk ribbon?
Okay, I guess.
I'm trying to give you something.
So, I mean, yeah, I guess silk ribbon, if we're gonna go with something, because technically you can use it outside of sex.
I guess a good one would be like a chair, but I feel like chair is too easy. Like,
right.
I want to dig deep and see, like, what have I used, and if not, what can I use? Oh, actually, so I think I told you about the workshop that I was planning on, that I'm doing next year, right?
Yeah.
The one that for us.
Yeah, Valentine's Day.
Yeah. So that will be something like I tried it with somebody, not necessarily like during sex, but just get their response with it. And I use car keys and in her keychain, and use that to like do some kind of sensations with her.
Stuff. Yeah.
And I literally asked her, so how did that make you feel? I told her, if I were to kiss your hand right now, how would you react? And how did this experience make you feel? And she was like, you know what? I'm too wet right now. And I was like, well, then, okay, cool. Look at that. So I will count that as mine.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. That sounds like a good one.
Oh, now I'm thinking, like, so yeah, my mind is racing. Like, I have crystals, so now I'm like
I've done crystal stuff, not like inside of me, but like on my body, or like candles. Everyone does the candle thing.
Yes, with the candles. So crystal play, I'm here for it. So how was that?
It was cool.
Was it a crystal that was connected to like a necklace, or was it just them holding like a large crystal? And
so I have different types of crystals. So I have like smooth ones and like pointier ones. So like while getting like a massage, kind of like doing that sensation on my back was really nice.
Ooh, I like that. I need to give you some more crystals now. Oh my God. Oh, sensory play with crystals. Yes, Lord. Oh, let me add that to my list of things I'm gonna do. Oh my God. Okay, you ready for another one?
Mhm.
So, have you ever slipped away to pleasure yourself in a place you weren't supposed to?
No,
Really?
I've thought about it, but no, actually I haven't.
I have.
Does that work? No, I guess you can't say.
I, low key, I almost did it at work before. Most definitely when I just had like my own office, I thought about it. I was like, I could technically masturbate in here. But then I was like, but my office space is like very open and everybody can see me. Let's not do
Yeah,
that. And then I never knew where my supervisor was. So I didn't want to like be like rubbing on myself a little bit. And then he just opens his door and I'm just like, well, there we go.
yeah.
But like, if anything, I'm not going to whip it out in my office, but you do like a little, like just deep petting on myself,
Mm.
rubbing on the thighs and everything, because that's a good feeling. But I did masturbate in a public library, no, a school library once. Like, it
You would have
was
got caught. You would have been a sex offender.
it was a university. It was at the
Um,
collegiate level. I was on Augusta University's campus, like in 20. I think this was 2012 during the summer, and I was there doing homework. And then I decided, let me go on Tumblr because I'm bored. And when you read a lot and you just want to break from reading,
yeah.
so I was like, let me go on Tumblr. And I was not thinking about the fact, well, or was I thinking about it? But, anyways, at the time, Tumblr had all the great porn.
Porn. Yeah. Back when Tumblr was great.
It was great. So I'm over here scrolling through Tumblr and I see, oh, okay, I'm getting a little bit aroused. Let me go ahead and click on this person's page and follow the damn rabbit hole. So I minimized the page, looked around, made sure nobody could see me because I was already in kind of a back corner, but very open. So if anybody walked up on me, they could see what the hell I was doing. And I just was over there rubbing on that thigh, rubbing on the dick, and kind of masturbating without actually taking it out. And it was a interesting and wonderful experience. That's like the limit of my exhibitionist mentality. I'm not trying to do more than that, but that shit was fun.
Yeah, I don't think I've had any like, I've masturbated at like a family member's house. Like, oh, you know what? So one time, back in college, I was in this like peer educator group or whatever, and we went on a trip to Florida or something, and I shared a room with someone who I thought was like super cute, and I masturbated there while they were in the room.
Oh, okay. Scandalous. I love it. I support. I support. Look, you have your own space so you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah.
Stay over there in your bed. Unless you're trying to join mine.
Wait, listen.
Let me find out.
Hopefully the person will never hear this podcast and it will never be.
Well, go ahead and say their name. Say that. No, 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 we're not doing that. All right. On that note, thank you so much, Sharita, for coming on to the podcast. I greatly appreciate you. Do you have any last words that you'd like to share with the audience?
Love yourself.
Ooh, hey, that works for me. Love yourselves, people. But thank you all so much for listening to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful, you are worthy of happiness and joy, you are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Soliloquy Podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.soliloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.